If there's one thing you need to understand about Morgan Freeman, it's this. He cannot stand being boxed into race-based politics just because of the color of his skin. He's Morgan Freeman, for crying out loud. Not your personal spokesperson, your therapist, or your substitute sociology professor. But apparently, The View didn't get the memo. They brought him on their panel and then pulled off the TV equivalent of a hit and run on his dignity. First, they gave him a whopping 5 minutes. 5. That's less time than it takes to microwave a frozen lasagna. And instead of highlighting his brand new documentary, they tried to drag him into the swamp of political talking points. It's like inviting Shakespeare over for dinner and then asking him to ghostwrite your tweets. Awkward, tone-deaf, and honestly, kind of insulting. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Roll the clip, watch carefully, and prepare yourself for a heavy dose of secondhand cringe.
There have been, if I remember correctly, 6 extinction-level events on the planet since life began. I mean, 6 times. Large portions of life. Not human life we're talking just life. Gone, destroyed. We're headed for another one. Scientists have said if we don't hurry up and change our ways, there's going to be a cataclysmic event that will wipe many of us off the face of the earth.
The View is really playing with fire here when it comes to Morgan Freeman. And let's be real. If you're going to walk a tightrope with anyone, Morgan Freeman is not the guy you want to test. This is the man who can narrate penguins waddling through Antarctica and somehow make it feel like the finale of a Shakespeare tragedy. And yet, here they are, poking the bear while he's just trying to promote his new documentary, Life on Our Planet. Now sure, I get it. Both Life on Our Planet and the Black History Project they discussed afterward are topics that can easily slide into politics. Environmentalism and race relations are basically the express lanes to heated debates. But come on, let's pump the brakes on the end-of-the-world climate change panic. These extinction-level event storylines, those happen once every tens of millions of years. Yeah, the dinosaurs got wrecked, but your Prius isn't about to cause the next meteor strike. ... Human-caused climate change, anthropogenic, if you want to flex that word at parties, has only been around for about 200 years. Yes, the environment is shifting. Yes, it's serious. And yes, it deserves real attention. But the way the panel framed it, you'd think they were selling front-row tickets to the apocalypse. Even the most extreme scientific projections talk about 2 to 4 degrees Celsius of warming. That's not nothing, but it also doesn't exactly scream, "Pack your bags, the asteroid is on its way." And here's the bigger issue. Modern environmentalism sometimes slips into this weird, anti-human, anti-growth narrative. Like humanity itself is the villain in a Marvel movie. And watching The View's panel, you couldn't shake that vibe. It wasn't a thoughtful discussion. It was more like doomsday predictions, served with a side of guilt-tripping.
It is because life is tenacious. Life. We're not talking about human beings here. We're talking about the planet.
Yeah.
She'll stay.
Yeah. Well, it's tenacious if we would just leave it alone. Leave it alone. And the human interruption of all of that is what's causing all the problems. I hope that it's not too late.
See what I mean? The second you turn the planet into the main character of the story, humans automatically get cast as the cartoon villain with the curly mustache. And right on cue, Joy Behar swooped in with a line straight out of the far-left environmentalist playbook. You could almost see Morgan Freeman's soul just sigh. That was not the detour he wanted to take, and definitely not the interpretation of his documentary he signed up for. Here's the reality check. Over 99% of every species that has ever walked, crawled, or swam on Earth is already extinct. Dinosaurs? Gone. Trilobites? Fossilized. Giant ground sloths? History. Life comes and goes. It's like a cosmic game of whack-a-mole. But the planet itself? Oh, this rock is tougher than a stale gas station bagel. It survived ice ages, asteroid strikes, and yes, even whatever questionable fashion choices we unleashed in the 80s. And get this, I wish I was exaggerating, but there's actually a fringe group online right now that advocates for the voluntary extinction of the human race. Yeah, apparently the solution is for all of us to just politely step off stage so the Earth can enjoy some alone time. It's basically the environmental version of that classic breakup line. It's not you, it's literally every single human alive. And this is what happens when a necessary idea, taking care of our planet, gets stretched so far that it collapses under its own absurdity. Morgan Freeman wants no part of that extremism. And honestly, same here. I'm all for saving the Earth, but I'd kind of like to stick around afterward to enjoy.
I want to ask you about a different documentary.
Go ahead.
As some politicians around the country try to erase Black history, you're making sure people don't forget vital parts of our past.
Yeah.
Including this documentary that you executive produced called 761st. Did I get that right? Yeah, 761st Tank Battalion, the original Black Panthers.
Yeah.
About the first Black battalion to fight in World War II.
First Black Armored Battalion.
Yes.
You could practically taste the awkward tension hanging in that panel. It was like everyone suddenly realized they'd just been gently corrected by Morgan Freeman, and now nobody wanted to be the first to make eye contact. I mean, come on! This is a man who has more gravitas in his pinky finger than the entire studio combined. And what did they give him? 5 minutes. 5. That's barely enough time for Morgan Freeman to clear his throat, let alone unpack an entire documentary. The whole thing felt less like an interview and more like speed dating with Morgan Freeman. Except instead of romance, you walk away with unsolicited political spin. And then came the kicker. Sonny Hostin, yes, Hostin, not Austin, though it really does sound like some kind of off-brand diet soda, decided to run the exact same play Joy Behar tried earlier. Different doc. This time, it was Freeman's Black History film. And once again, they tried to cast him as the reluctant mascot for whatever social message they wanted to push. But Morgan Freeman? He wasn't having it. You could see him politely, firmly pushing back, like a man who's been through this song and dance too many times. It was the interview equivalent of inviting Gordon Ramsay into your kitchen and then proudly handing him a microwave burrito. You just don't do that. And that's the real miscalculation here. Morgan Freeman doesn't need the View's narrative. He doesn't need their framing, their spin, or their clumsy attempts at symbolism. Morgan Freeman is the narrative. Always has been.
And start in the 40s and move up. And how many times did I see Black people in the movies? And if I did see them, what were they doing?
Yeah. There were servants. They were always. I know it's appalling.
I can give you the name.
If you watch old movies, Betty Davis movies are particularly, even though she's great, and
it's the period.
It's not her fault. It's the period.
Yeah.
It's upsetting to watch. Tell you the truth.
It shouldn't be that way because somebody did make money.
Yeah.
And there it was. That's the time.
It really comes down to this. You can't force someone into a victim role if they've already decided they're not going to play it. And that's exactly what makes Morgan Freeman so powerful. The man carries himself with this quiet, unshakable confidence, like someone who refuses to lug around baggage that was never his to begin with. And if you think I'm overselling it, if you're sitting there like, all right, calm down, he's just an actor, then do yourself a favor. Go back and watch that legendary 60 Minutes interview. It is, hands down, a masterclass in dismantling the victim narrative without breaking a sweat. No anger, no theatrics, Just calm, crystal clear common sense, delivered in a voice so smooth, it could probably convince you to refinance your mortgage on the spot.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
Nobody on that panel could even muster up a real disagreement with him. And honestly, how could they? This is Morgan Freeman we're talking about. The man was born in 1937. He's 84 years old, and he's lived through cultural shifts most of us only read about in history books. That kind of perspective isn't something you can Google. It's carved into his life experience, which is why, when he speaks, every word lands with a kind of weight that no panelist with a stack of note cards could ever compete with. And he's right. Art is a mirror of its culture, and culture is always evolving. What feels revolutionary today might look outdated tomorrow. And that's not a flaw, that's part of the beauty. To drag the past into the courtroom of today's morality isn't just short-sighted, it's a kind of disrespect. Because the artists who paved the way weren't living by our hashtags or our trending debates. They were living in their time, pushing boundaries in their context. And I'd bet good money Morgan Freeman doesn't want that fate for himself either. When history remembers him, and trust me, it will, he'd want to be remembered in the fullness of his time. Not as some poor soul who got filtered through tomorrow's outrage machine.